Hi, I'm Keith McGuire. Mark's behind the camera, and today we're going to be painting poppies for a Mother's Day present. I guess I should begin then. All right. I'm going to begin with, I'm going to wet the poppies in sections. Make sure your brush is clean. I'm going to check right now myself.
Now, Keith did pre-draw the picture that he's going to paint. Find a photo online, find one in a book, take your own photo, something to kind of give you the base shape and orientation that you're looking for.
Yeah, make it easy on yourself. I'm going to start with a couple of the front petals, and I'm going to really kind of give it a nice coat of water because I want the paint to really swirl around and flow in each of these petals. So, and what we're going to be doing is kind of a wet on wet technique all throughout this painting, and we're going to be kind of bleeding one section into another section to give it a very loose and fun watercolor feel. This is not serious, this is just good fun, basically. So, I'm going to start with my Pyrrole Red. I have wet down one of the surfaces, one of the flower petals, and I'm going to add water to my paint. Now, remember, when you have fresh paint like this, you need to get it out and blend it. We don't want to be using, too thick a paint. You want to make sure there's enough water in your paint when you apply it to the paper. This ain't acrylics, this is watercolor. So, as you can see, it smears around. That's a patented Keith McGuire technical term. I'll be writing a book soon so that people will understand me when
How I smeared
my watercolors on the paper. And as you can see, it'll spread out. I like leaving little bits of light and darkness, okay? That wasn't hard, and I'm going to add just a little more paint, a little thicker. I'm going to do it around the edge right here, okay? Okay. All right. Maybe I'll blend up a little right here. All right, so I'm going to let that do its thing. Meanwhile, I'm just going to rinse my brush. I'm going to wet another area. Now, it's probably going to be slightly pink because my watercolor my watercolor jar is already quite red. However, it'll probably make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take, on this foreground poppy, I'm going to kind of do them in sections. So 1 or 2 sections at a time. So I'm just going to wet this one section. Get it nice and juicy. Now we don't want puddles, but we do want it to be good and wet, because that'll help the paint kind of move around, and that's half the fun of what we're doing, is letting the paint do the job for you, letting the watercolors do the job for you. All right. I don't like, I'll start with an outline, but I don't like outlining everything and then filling in. I kind of like to kind of move it around, fill in different sections. What happens is, if you always outline, if it dries a little too quick, it looks like you got an outline. It just looks odd. Looks amateurish. Yeah, that's it.
What color red are you using right now?
This is Pyrrole Red. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It is from the what company is that? Daniel Smith. Their paints are good quality. You can get any color you could ever imagine from them. I like them, but I like to kind of mix some of my own colors too. But this red is really a fun red. I'm always looking for good reds because I have a very hard time with reds. I won't paint a cardinal. I won't paint certain things because I can't get a red that I like. This is actually pleasant. And this is coming along very well. So, notice how I leave light areas. This kind of gives it a little more life to it, a little reflection. So I'm going to come over. Here's what we're going to do. Now, like I said, it's still a little bit pink, okay? So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to put the back petals on this top one. I'm going to lightly wet. Well, that looks like a puddle. I'm going to lightly wet without touching what I've already painted, okay, because it's still wet. But I'm going to lightly wet this. Like I said, you might be able to see this because it's slightly pink. But I leave a little white line all the way around. That way, this red won't run into this red until I'm ready. So I'm sucking up a little, like I said, I got a little lake going over here. So there, that's about gone.
Now, the new wet that you're putting down stays where you put it because of the paper, the type of paper we're using?
Well, yeah, the paint won't go anywhere other than where the water is, unless I just plop it down, you know, with my brush. So,
but what I was getting at is the water didn't seem to spread across the paper. It went where your brush put
right, it goes exactly where I put it. Now, so this is kind of like a controlled wet surface. So I have my water in. I'm going to take, and I'm just going to break my little dam here and there. Okay, and I'm just going to let you see how this paint from the first section is going to flow into the other section. And I might leave them back petals very light. So I might even add a little paint right here and there just to let it kind of bleed in. Now, I'm going to lift my paper. Am I in the...
Yeah, you're fine.
Good. So you can kind of see how that bleeds up from the lower petals up into the top petals there. And I like that. That's kind of fun. Very loose and wet then. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to let that kind of dry up. I'm going to add a little color here and there. Maybe along the top of some of the petals. Some of the petal. How's that? Now, like I said, I don't want to outline the thing. I just want to kind of give it some color here and there. All right. Yeah. So this way we can kind of break up our flower a little bit. I'm going to come back down to the lower section again. While this is doing its thing, I am going to come in over here. And I'm going to wet this section. Now there's a little yellow center to the poppy. And in this particular picture, I also have put one of the little poppy buds in front of this particular poppy I'm working on. So that's what you're going to see where I'm not painting. There's going to be something there. So, all right, cool.
And for those of you that want to follow along, in the description of the video down below is a full materials list with links to where you can purchase the different paint colors Keith's using, the brushes, the paper, the mason jars. If you use
really?
Yeah, they're in there. If you use the links, we get a small commission, and we thank you very much. But if you prefer just to go purchase at your local art center, go and support your local stores.
If you can find them. They're getting scarce as hen teeth, so it would be nice.
And you don't pay any more for using our links.
That's right. I have to admit, the convenience of going online, because I kind of live out in the country, and driving to an art store, is kind of a pain to me, but they're still out there. Anyway. All right, I have wet this section here. I'm going to start adding color once again. And you'll notice I'm being fairly thick with my color this time around. A lot of color. So that means less water, more paint, okay? I am leaving little air pockets, little light things. It'll kind of fill in around it. I left this section here because that's going to be a little kind of a goldish bulb in the center. And I'm just kind of letting this, look how the paint bleeds. I love this. It just gives it the feeling of kind of like veins, like any delicate little flower would have. Now here's one of the little seed pods in front here, so I'm not touching that. And I'm just going to let that kind of set up. So now, this is kind of filled in up here. And I kind of like how it looks. And notice how I leave the little white line there that kind of, you know, delineates the front of the petal from the back petals, the front petal from the back petals. I will be learning English as my first language soon. All right, I'm adding a little more color while it's wet, just so I can get a nice, movement. So it looks kind of delicate, I think, because it looks more papery. It flows. All right, this looks good. I like everything that's going on. I think at this point, what I want to do is, I like this. I'm going to stop right here and let it dry, okay? And then we'll be back and I'll continue. So give me a second. We'll be right back. We're back. The flowers are now dry and my water is now clean. It's like a miracle. I am about to do a little bit of the background color now, and then we'll get into the detail of finishing up the flowers. But I think it'll be fun to get the little bit of background color in. And the fun part about it is that we're gonna kind of drop color into a nice wet background. And we'll see what happens here. So I'm now gonna maybe not do it all, but I'm gonna get a good chunk of this going. Now, the only thing, I do have some of the buds. I'm going to not paint those, but as far as the stems go, I'm not really worried about that. So I'm just gonna go over the stems. But I don't want to fight too many colors in the little buds. So, all right, I'll stop right here. I'll use one of the stems as a place. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get everything done all at once. Things dry before you're ready, so sometimes I'll just use, I'll just paint half of it. So at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of my red, and I'm going to mix a wee bit of my, what color was that? Phthalo blue. And kind of getting a grayish purple going. And it's not too dark. I'm going to have blues, I'm going to have some violets, I'm going to have some reds in here. So I want to have a little, I don't want to make this too heavy too quickly. As you can see, when you apply paint to to a wet surface, it just bleeds and it does stuff. And to me, that's what watercolors is. Because no other paints, you put the stuff down and it moves, right? This is what makes watercolors special. maybe acrylics if you're letting it, if you're letting it be too thin, I think. All right, so I got some gray in there. I'm going to add just a little bit of the phthalo blue, a little more phthalo blue to the violet, so that it's a little bit bluer.
Don't forget, links and the different paint colors and whatnot are all in the description below, just in case you can't figure out how to spell these based off of the pronunciation. They are tricky.
especially Keith's. He just makes up words. All right, so now as I come down a little bit along this one flower, I'm almost using the just pure phthalo. So we don't want it just to all blend together and be one color. So that's why we kind of break it up, and it's kind of like dropping color into color. Now, I'm even going to throw a tiny bit of the red back into the background. So I'm going to try it up here a little bit. I don't want too much because we already have, we don't want the poppies to kind of disappear, but I do like the idea of having some of that color back there too. All right, so again, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm going to just kind of pick it up, let it kind of blend a little bit, and then put it back down. I'm going to let that sit. We'll watch it, make sure it ain't doing anything scary. But I'm going to go ahead and wet the bottom now, bottom half, and do the same thing. And I do have a lot of stems and stuff down here. But like I said, I think the stems will be dark enough we ain't going to have any trouble. The background isn't all that dark. Now I have one of the petals flipping up a little bit, so I'm not going to, it'll be white, it'll stay white right there. And here I am now connecting to what I've already painted. Okay, so whereas I have it a little grayer in the background, farther up, I'm thinking I like it a little bit brighter down below here. As you can see, I'm still just dropping paint with a lot of water in it into a lot of water, and that's why it moves the way it is and bleeds and blends. All right. I'm going to once again, I'm going to add maybe a little bit of red down here. I do have a little pod right here too, so I'll let that, let that kind of bleed around, mix into the blue a little bit maybe. I don't want a ton. And maybe let's make a little violet again, that grayish violet. Using the Pyrrole red and the phthalo blue. Phthalo.
Gesundheit.
Bazang. Bazinga. All right. And yeah, all right. Yeah, that's the ticket. So, once again, I'm kind of at a point where I'm going to have to stop and let it dry again. But right now I'm kind of looking at my colors and seeing what it's doing and where it's going. And honestly, don't get up and walk away when it's drying. Observe what's going on. It's the best way to learn. The other thing is, if it does start doing something you don't like, there's your opportunity to fix it before it dries. Because once it dries, it's yours. You own it. Now, you can probably do a little scrubbing if you want to get rid of something, but I think keeping an eye on it is the best thing for you to do. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm just adding a little bit more blue here and there.
This is all going to dry lighter, right?
Yeah. Watercolors dry 40% lighter, so you've got to take that into account. Now, the nice thing about the Arches paper is, okay, if you didn't get it dark enough, you can always wait for it to dry, re-wet it, and go at it again. That's the beauty of a good 100% rag cotton paper. If you don't have that, oftentimes you'll go to re-wet it, you'll just pick up what was already there. So try to work with the best supplies. Like I said, I teach classes and I don't let anybody use anything but Arches. It's just a better, easier way to learn. All right. So, all right. I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to let that go. So I'm going to let it dry, and we'll be back again. All right, I am back. My background is dry, and I'm going to do a little bit of detail work now. So I'm going to grab my Lowell Cornell Flora brush. Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
What were you using before?
I was using just a very large round. I feel that I want to get a little detail. This has got a great point on it. Maybe I'll hold them here.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you can see that wonderful point. So I'm going to do some of the stem work and the pods. I'm going to paint the little center yellow. I'm going to do that right now. So just to get it done. All right. So again, make sure you pull the paint out, add a little water to it. Make sure you don't have any clumps of paint when you go to apply it to the paper. So I got that nice bright yellow, rich, maybe not bright, rich. Yeah, that's a good. All right. So now I'm going to mix me up a little bit of green now. So I'm going to use the phthalo and a little bit of this yellow. See if I can get me a nice green or a yellow green. Yeah. All right. That's pretty much the color I want. So I am going to just dry brush these in. We don't need to wet it. I mean, they're thin. They're easy. Hopefully easy. As you can see, this brush is just wonderful for doing detail kind of work. I could get that to a very fine line if I wanted to.
And why would you use that one instead of just a thin brush?
Well, I could. This is just this one holds a lot of paint. As you can see, it has a very large well. It's called a well, basically. And so I can hold a lot of paint. I can get a lot done. And I can go to a very fine tip if I want.
And when you lose the tip, it makes a nice wash brush.
Exactly. I love the Teflon paint brushes. They do wear out eventually. There's nothing you can do. I don't think there's much you can do. Eventually, they're going to wear. So I just buy new ones, and then the brushes eventually become, like Mark said, a wash brush for me. And then when they get real fuzzy, they go to the, I usually take them to the local schools, public schools, and teachers are always love to have some brushes. And most of the time they don't care if the tip is a little fuzzy. So, all right, I'm gonna do a couple of these pods now. Let me know if I fall off your camera there.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Okay. All right. As you can see, I'm going right over the background color. We're not having any trouble here doing that. It's a light enough color. Now on this one, I'm leaving a little bit of light area. I might want to add another color in there. In fact, I think I do. I'm going to add a little yellow. I'm just going to let it bleed into the green a little bit, just to give it a little three-dimensional value there. This one, I'm just adding a little color to it. All right. I missed one. So as you can see, I can go from a fine tip to a nice clump of paint. Putting down a nice clump. All right, so we got this going. And while that's drying, I am gonna put a little more color in the background. I'm going to maybe add a little of the green, a little bit of the yellow, and just kind of fill in a little bit. There's a lot of thin, spindly pieces on this painting, so maybe we can, thicken up some background by adding. I also want to add a little green to the background too, so just to kind of give it like it's out there in nature. So I'm applying this right now. I'm applying it dry, as in I did not wet the paper. I'm just applying it over the background that I have. So I'm adding a little bit of green here and there. And I'm not really defining anything. I'm just kind of clumping in some shape and color. I'm leaving some of the background. We don't want to kill it all. And how about a little up here too? People say, what is that? It's green. As you can see, it kind of helps fill in a little bit. It helps it, doesn't, like I said, doesn't look quite so spindly. Mixing up a little more green. I'm going to do it's like, whoa, that got dark, didn't it? But I want a little dark in here too, so I'm just going to take a little water, thin this down a little. So you notice I I did not fill it all in. I don't want to fill it all in. I just want some color here and there just to break it up. It's like there's something back there, but we really, it's out of focus. We can't really see what it is. So, there. All right, now, can I keep working? Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to put the dark, chewy center into the poppy itself. So, as long as I don't get my hands in my paint, should be okay. So I'm going to wet the inside centerpiece around the yellow, I don't know what that is, whatever they call it, the yellow center. I'm just going to wet all the way around it. And because it has dried, I don't have to worry about the paint lifting. It's I can add color, layers, more color. All right, I'm going to mix now. Now, I apologize. I ran out of the Daniel Smith burnt sienna, so I grabbed some of my Schminkies. I'm going to mix it with indigo. I'm going to try to get a nice dark, shiny dark. I might even add a little bit of this phthalo blue. A little more brown. All right, so it's kind of like equal portions of all of them just to get it nice and thick and dark. And the only thing I'm worried about, now I'm not sure, is I'm not sure if the center of the yellow was dry, because I don't want the dark to bleed in. As a matter of fact, it does look like it kind of bled in, the water bled in because this wasn't dry yet. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait a minute.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Let's let this dry completely. I'll go ahead and re-wet it again. We'll do it again. So I'm going to take a quick break and let this dry. What? Wait, we're not done yet. All right, I'm going to finish this up now, I hope. I'm going to we're going to get the signature poppy look going here by getting the black dot that is in the center of these things. So what I'm doing is I'm painting around the yellow. And I'm not painting, I'm wetting the paper around the little yellow dot in the center. And this is where we're going to apply the dark paint. Now, I've mixed up some indigo, some burnt sienna, a little bit of phthalo blue. Trying to get a shiny black, a kind of a neat, nice black. I hate using black. Black is, I swear, the dullest colors are the pre-mixed blacks. I think it's more fun to create your own. So I like starting with the indigo because it's a dark blue, but it's kind of shiny. It's not as dead. All right, so boy, that's not moving at all, is it?
But because the flower, the red of the flower is completely dry, there's no worry of it moving the red anymore?
No,
picking it up?
not at all.
Once it's dry, it's set and it's not going anywhere?
Correct. So hopefully we can get the black to go somewhere. This is funny. It's not moving as fluidly as the red did. And it may be that I did not put as much water down. It's moving though. It's getting there. So I'm coming around the dark, I'm going around the yellow and eventually just letting this kind of bleed out. So I'm adding a little more color so it'll bleed a little farther. But remember, it's only going to bleed as far as you wet it. And what I'm trying to do is see how that feathery bleed. There we go. All right. I'm going to add a little more out here. We're just going to let that kind of go. Let's go with that right there. We're going to keep an eye on it as I kind of finish up other things. But I like how it blossoms out like that, how the black blossoms out. And I'm keeping an eye on it too, because the paint will stop exactly where you wet to, okay? So sometimes what happens is you'll look and there'll be like a little wall where the paint has come up to the wall and it stops right there. So what we're trying to do is we want to wet it enough that as the black bleeds out, it has room to get all the way, you know, with the feathery touch to it. It's like right here. Seems like a little wall right there because I didn't wet far enough. I'm not going to mess with it right now. I might go back in and touch it up a little bit. But for right now, I kind of like that. I'm going to, again, whoa, I almost dropped the brush. I'm going to do the little black piece on the bottom side of this flower. And this one, as you can see, I just put it down dry. I just want to show you a little different thing. I'm going to take my wet brush and I'm just going to blend the water and watch it go. So I kind of hit it with water and I'm going to let that paint move now. I do not. And in doing this black, this is where we really want to use paint. We don't want to have to do this 3 times. 1 time. So if you have to go back in while it's drying, if you don't think there's enough color, go back in. Add a little color around the center and let it keep bleeding out. I love this. This looks good here. So I'm going to leave. That looks pretty black. I like that. All right. Now, I have a couple little items I want to work on. One is I left one of the petals kind of folded over like this. I'm going to add a little more red up here so we can get the fold. Again, I left that little bit of a white line there so people can see the delineation. Delineate, is that the word? Yeah, never mind. I usually have students that help me with my English as I'm interpreting for the other students, the newer students. There we go.
As you said, the book of Keithisms will be available at the fourth quarter of 2017.
Yeah. It'll probably just be a card, actually. You can...
It'll be a very small book.
Get the highlights. Okay, so I've folded that petal over. We're going to let that dry. This is going very well. I like that. I like that. That looks good. So, what else can I do? I guess I could give the pods a little more 3-dimensional value. I'm going to take a little bit of the blue, the Prussian, or not Prussian, I'm sorry, the phthalo blue that I've been using. And I'm just gonna maybe put a little color around one side here. Now again, I didn't wet it. I just put the paint down. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water and let it bleed. So I have just a little more of a color on one side than the other. And I think I can do it here. I think as long as I don't hit anything. Whoa, there, I did lose that one. All right.
So now we're going to switch brushes.
Yeah, going for the big brush now. Okay. It's not like I needed that pointy tip anymore, quite honestly. And I don't want to go under the table while I'm on while I'm on camera. Where'd he go? Just keep filming.
I would never do anything that embarrassed you on
Yeah,
camera.
yeah. I can picture what's going to be inserted in here now. All right. Okay, so we've got a lot of the little details now that I wanted to get done. The last thing we'll do is probably let's add a little more color to the background, just to give it a little more value. I didn't use the ultramarine blue. And I'm wondering, I wanted to, so it's not a ultramarine blue. What I'm using it for is to kind of create a little more value, a little darker areas here and there. It's a cool blue. But over top of these other colors, I think it's kind of graying it down a little bit, which is kind of what I wanted. And now I'm mixing two blues together. Let's see what happens. Ooh, pretty. All right. I'm just kind of going along the edges of those stems at the bottom there. We'll lift a little of that out. I'm going to do just a little bit more here and there, just so you don't do something in just one spot and then not do it somewhere else. I'm adding a little more here and there. Okay. The black is drying up very nicely. At this point, I'm going to do just a little bit more detail as I carefully reach down and grab that brush I dropped earlier.
Look what he's doing.
Yeah, now I got the tip again. I need the fine tip is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take the red. I'm going to pretty much, I'm not going to wet anything again. I'm just going to kind of come in here and I just want to kind of break this up a little bit more with some lines, and then what I'm going to do is then I'll just kind of lightly maybe wet them just so I have a little bit more texture in the petals themselves. So I kind of like that. I'm going to come in here now, and I'm going to darken this up a little bit here. So just a little bit of water, just so it's get a little separation of color there. I'm also kind of looking into the fact, I wonder if I add just a tiny bit of yellow to the pyrrole red, yes. So I've added a little bit of the yellow to the pyrrole red, and what I'm getting is that just a slight variation, so a more orangey color added to the poppy petals. And I think, and when I look at poppy petals, this is one of the colors I see when I look at them. They do tend to have a wee bit of kind of an orangish color to them. So the last thing I'm doing is just adding a little bit of that. As you can see, I think it kind of helps brighten the poppy just a little bit more. Just make sure the black's dry before you try painting over it, or you'll smear it into your red there. So yeah, I kind of like this. And you don't want it everywhere because you want the other red to shine through very nicely. All right, I kind of think that's about where I want to be. All right. Going to add a little bit of shadow here around this one section where it kind of flips up. All right. Now, I think the only other thing I would do is possibly take a little bit of the black again. And maybe break these up a little bit. Don't go nuts. I'm doing them dry. Kind of a dry brush. And ta-da! I think I'm about done. This was just fun. Don't take it too seriously, but keep using the fundamentals because it really does help to be consistent in what you're doing. So I'm going to say this one's about done. I would actually sign it, but I think it's still moist here and there. So thank you very much. Anything I have to say, Mr. Mark?
Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out Keith's website, rkmcguire.com. Links are in the description, as well as, again, material list for what he used today. If you follow along with any of Keith's tutorials or have any of your own paintings that you just like to share, we'd love to see them. put links in the comments or follow us on the Facebook page. Put them in there. We'd like to see what you're doing. Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.